Welcome. I can't even say back. Welcome to the new show, B4evaKool for adventure riders, people who are thinking about, just transversing through continents or maybe through continents around the world kind of thing. To get introduce new riders who may want to have some information and learn about to get into adventure riding and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of folks that probably go adventure riding for the day. They might put in 8 hours. They might camp out for the night. We're not talking about that kind of adventure riding. We're talking about getting on the road, and we're not coming back home and still haven't been back home. So I have two folks that's been on the show already, and now we're doing this thing together, this adventure show. We have Nomads on Two Wheels and Two Wheels, One Compass. Welcome to the show, guys. Just give a little brief summary of what you guys been up to and all that fun stuff. Start with Nomad.
Take it, Jim. Oh, all right,
Jim.
Okay, so you guys know me. I've been on the show before, Nomad on Two Wheels. I started my adventure in United States. Started with Boston, New York, and then went all the way across to LA, went down south through Mexico, all the Central America countries, went into South America, shipped from South America off to Africa. So now I'm, trotting the continent of Africa. Riding the continent of Africa right now. So the bike that I have is a Tenere 700 2021. And that's pretty much it. That's my intro.
Yeah, and my name's Jimbo Tarpey, Two Wheels, One Compass. I started my journey in mid-2022 from Minnesota, where I'm from. Went north through Canada, up through Alaska, all the way to the Arctic Ocean. And then down the west coast of Canada, the United States, 6 months through Mexico, another 6 months, I think, through the rest of all of Central America, including Belize, Panama, flew over to Colombia, and then rode the Andes almost all the way. I cut over to get through Bolivia and Paraguay, and then took basically bounced back and forth down Chile and Argentina to the very bottom of South America, to the city known as Ushuaia. From there, stopped in Antarctica, and now currently in Chile and thinking about what's next. So I've been on the road for almost 3 years, and so how it all started, I think, is what we're going to talk about today.
That's pretty impressive. So my adventure riding is none. I did own a multistrada for about 5 years, and I did have saddlebags to do some adventure riding, but I haven't made it out since sold my multistrada and bought a Panigale. So I don't know if I'm going to need to be traveling around the world on a Panigale. I kind of know what inspired me into getting into adventure riding, even though I didn't do any of it. So I want to ask, and we'll go with Jimbo first. What was the inspiration behind, saying, "Hey, I'm a become an adventure rider"? Because when I got into motorcycle riding, I wasn't even thinking about like the different types of riding. I just bought the bike I thought I liked at that moment, and that was it. And then soon realized that it's not the bike for me. So what was the inspiration for you guys to say, okay, I want to ride a bike, but not only that, I want to travel, live. It's going to be my home as well.
Yeah, I'm one of the rare examples of someone who had came up with the idea to do this before ever having ridden before. I was completely green when I had the idea to ride around the world on a motorcycle. It took a lot of practice and a grand design of putting together, okay, I'm going to buy this bike and I want to do this with it. I'd like to camp with it. I'm going to do some maybe long distance and long term, like vacation, like let's say 2 or 3 week long trips to kind of get the feel for living in a tent, kind of living off of the road, the uncomfortableness of dealing with the rain and the elements, all that. So I knew before I'd started that I wanted to travel the world, but I didn't know how. And it was actually a coworker that had decided or had came up with the idea at the time to what about a motorcycle? And there were all the perks of the long distance of it, the economics of it. It's a lot more economical to ride on a motorcycle than to have a big van. And then I started to see people online that had this kind of life that were documenting it on social media. Then I thought a hook that I could do for mine was to educate about the places I go. So I had a lot of inspiration from the get-go to do this. So my first motorcycle was a Kawasaki Vulcan. I wanted to get something that would have some power because I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I didn't come from a family or friends with a lot of motorcycles. My dad had ridden, but I didn't have a lot of experience. So I just kind of moved in a direction and saw what worked. And yeah, that's kind of how it began, is getting into I knew that I wanted to travel, but I wasn't exactly sure how. So yeah, I just kind of felt it out.
Nomad.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely motorcycles first. I've been riding since I was 16. I went from dirt bike to sport bike. I had a sport bike for quite some time. And then eventually I got an adventure bike. As far as travel goes, I've always been into travel. I've always wanted to explore the world. So I took a backpacking trip back in 2017. I did that for about a year and a half. And then in each country that I was in, I rented a motorcycle and explored the country on a motorcycle. When I got back, I said to myself, you know what? I want more. I wanted to see more, explore more, do more, go to more countries. And I always felt the best way for me to do it was to combine two passions, which was the travel and being on a motorcycle. Once I got back, I just started putting things in place in order for me, like how can I travel the world by motorcycle? And then it also, like, what kind of bike should I get? So that also led to doing different research as far as like what bike to get. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I was just trying to combine two passions of mine. And definitely, travel and motorcycles, just merge them together and see where it takes me. So,
yeah, would you agree though? After now having had this Tenere for as long as you've had, have you kind of picked apart what things you like? And I haven't mentioned, but I have an Africa Twin 1100, and like I've now really started to focus on the things that I don't like about it. Like when it falls over, it's really heavy, all those things. So what have you thought about it?
Well, like, so it's funny. It's funny enough. My first bike was an Africa Twin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the first bike was an Africa Twin. That the first adventure bike was an Africa Twin, and then when I got on, I had it for about a year and a half, and I was doing things on it that I knew that I probably shouldn't be doing. I took a lot of like off-road courses with it, and I was sending it. And I was just like, this bike is really heavy. And I was, like you said, I was picking it up and I was like, I can't do this on this bike. So then eventually I got the Tenere. And the Tenere was felt significantly lighter. But I also did more stuff on that one that, I felt like I probably shouldn't be doing. And then, so as far as your question goes, is like, what I use the same bike. Whew. I mean, it depends. I mean, if I'm doing the same stuff that I'm doing now, probably not. I'd probably get a lighter bike. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before let's moonwalk it back a little bit before we they're riding the bikes and stuff like that. Let's talk about the preparation that you guys went under, a little bit of the preparation that you guys went under, and because there's some people that just kind of get the gear, get all the stuff, and it's in the garage or the shed or whatever, and you're all geared up, but you have no idea what to do. So like you guys are both on the road now and been on the road for over a couple of years, but from the thought of saying, hey, I'm going to go right around the world to actually leaving that first day, like, what was that prep like? And do you feel like you did too much of it or not enough of it?
I think it's easy. It's easy to do too much. You're always, you want to leave. Everyone ideally wants to leave thinking that they've thought of everything, but you're never going to. And I think I personally, I'm a different case because and I've met people that, like a couple from Australia, for example, that just flew to Colombia and were going to backpack and then decided, oh, let's buy bikes. And the girl had never ridden before. And they were gone for about 6 months. There's a British guy, Sam Manicom, very popular in adventure rider circles, who started, I think, in the 90s or 2000s with very little motorcycle experience, going through Africa, just like from Britain down to Italy and shipping over to Africa and just going south. Some people really do not do a lot sometimes. So I'm on the other side of that. I think I definitely over-prepared. I looked at every single contingency, all the different gear that I would have. I was carrying the kitchen sink at one point. I definitely had like way too much. And so over the course of time, I've started to drop it off. But in terms of gear, I was definitely over-prepared, and then found myself, like, I would do trips where I would do two things. I would mark down, okay, I've been gone for this long. What haven't I used? Drop it. And what don't I have that I could have? All right, then I'll make a point to look out for it. And I've kind of used that to slim and bulk up my gear back and forth in a kind of wave fashion back and forth over the last couple of years. But I think, and then I start to see how other people are set up, and I go, okay, I could definitely have a lot less. Cause it's kind of like, just last thought is like my bike is huge, so it's an 1100. It's kind of like buying a larger house or a larger apartment. You end up filling the space in the apartment with something. If you have that extra room, you're going to throw something in it, and eventually you find yourself filling out the space that you have. So when I have this massive bike, it's ended up locking me into the setup a little bit.
So you had a jacuzzi?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think like the most frivolous thing. I had a camping chair. That was huge. It was obnoxious. A chair is great, but there's some people that don't use that. Everybody has a luxury item, but I've had some people just use a pannier and sit on it with their back against the bike. Fine. There's no need for the chair. Or some people bring hammocks and they can fold right up, and they're a lot more space efficient, little ones. So, I mean, yeah, everybody has one of those items, but yeah.
Hey, I need a chair. I bring a chair with me.
I know mine broke.
I'm a chair guy, definitely. I agree with you, man. I think at the end of the day, I think people you're gonna overpack. That's the main thing. Like you're definitely going to overpack no matter what. And I feel like, it's a part of learning who you are as a rider. You learn who you are as a rider. You learn who you are as a traveler on a motorcycle. And then once you start realizing who you are and your identity as a traveler on a motorcycle, you can kind of pinpoint what you need and what you don't need. It does take a little bit of trial and error. You're always, like Jimbo said, you're always going to get rid of stuff because you're going to have them, you're going to be 4 months in, 2 months, 3 months in, and then you're going to realize you haven't even, it's been at the bottom of your bag for the entire time. You've never used it. So, and you're just like, do I actually really, really need this thing? It's just like, okay, if I can lighten this load a little bit and just, then you're going to do it, especially when you're in certain situations and you're going down certain roads and you're like, damn, this bike is heavy. I wish this bike wasn't so heavy, and you're going through like mud and all this stuff. And you're just like, fuck, I just like, I wish this bike was a lot lighter. I mean, again, it's all about learning, trial and error. This is why, like, if you are going to take a long distance trip, I would only recommend just take a couple of days, take 3 days, 4 days, even a week if you can, and just start figuring out, how are you surviving on a week? Do you Do you go to a store and get food? Do you bring food with you? Do you need cookware? So these are all the little things that you have to kind of figure out before you actually just pack up and go. I mean, you can learn as you go. That's fine. But I would just recommend just learning who you are as a motorcycle traveler, like traveling, 7 days, 5 days, 3 days. So,
yeah, a stress trip is essential. Because for example, in Mexico City, I was at a bunker biker in Mexico City, and he introduced me to his friend who's a lawyer, lived downtown. Guy had a dream that him and his brother were going to go to Alaska, and his brother had passed away. So in his honor and his memory, he was going to travel to Alaska, and he wanted me to check out his gear. I was somebody that was had done the opposite of his dream, gone from Alaska to Mexico City. Went to his house, looked at his gear, and I could tell that he had not done a stress test trip. I don't think he'd done a trip longer than a weekend. Wow. He had a lot of things with him. Like the one thing that stood out to me is he had a power strip. And like a big, bulky, long power strip with like a ton of different outlets in it. And I know you're gonna, I mean, that's the kind of thing that like, okay, how much did I really use this? He had cameras along with him. I know that he was planning on it, but like, if there's some give and take here, like, all right, I'm not gonna bring a power strip. I'll just have to like rotate things in this one outlet that I have in this room. Things like that. I could tell that he hadn't been through that kind of trial, and it's important to do that. Or for example, I started in the United States and Canada. There is white gas and butane canisters for cooking, camping stoves all over the place. But the second you cross into Mexico, you're not going to find those probably all the way until Argentina and Chile. Like unless you're in major cities that have big camping stores like Lima, Cusco, Bogota, you're really not going to find camping stove canisters of nice, clean white gas and butane. Yeah. So I was with a Swiss couple that was using the like really old school, original, 1970s gasoline canister kind of cookware. Because you can get gasoline anywhere. It burns pretty dirty, but you're not going to conveniently find white gas everywhere. So I saw their gear and I went, I need that. And because I was like rationing and worried, am I going to find white gas? Should I camp? Finally, I just said, screw it. I got the gasoline canister. I cooked as much as I want, probably saved a lot of money because I was cooking more often instead of waiting to conveniently be in a hostel to cook or eating in restaurants. And it also gave me better range. And that thing has gasoline in it. In the real dire event of emergency, there's 750 milliliters I could throw in the tank if I really need it. So that I didn't start with, but I ended up getting because I saw that I needed to be a little more flexible because the environment had changed. And always getting your favorite toothpaste every time you go somewhere, or getting your favorite this and that, you got to be.
Yeah. Is favorite in your vocabulary after a few years of traveling like you guys are traveling?
Preferred?
Yeah. You look for it, but at the same time you're like, all right, I'm not gonna find it.
Oh man. Yeah. Before we move on to actually the beautiful part of traveling, the scenery and the things that you guys came up on, what are three things, and let's go one for one just in case there's no overlap. What are three things you wish you knew when you first started based on where you guys are today?
I would say that of the people that I spoke with, no one had done a trip like this. There had been people that had done long distance journeys cross country and maybe stayed in hotels, but no one in my social circles had really done anything like this. And I think I maybe would have benefited if I'd found online influencers or anybody and just sent them a message and just said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you suggest? Or if I'd done more research watching, not going to lie, like a podcast like this, because you would have people that had been through this. And like, for example, I have an 1100 bike. I probably would not have gotten an 1100. It's really nice in the long distances and vast expanses of the Arctic. But as Nomad knows, when you're in these really tight turning, muddy roads and sand and the really narrow streets that are like inclined at 45 degrees in the streets of Quito, it's a real hassle to have something that large. And when it falls over, how many times you got to pick it up? So I guess to answer your question, the one thing that I wish I would have done is not listen to the people who didn't do these long distance journeys, but look more at people who had. Because you're going to get a big bike because you're carrying your whole life, aren't you? So, well, I've seen people that have been gone for years that have much less and a smaller bike. And there's a lot of advantages to carrying a small bike indoors or, being able to bring it up a set of stairs or a lot of things. So there's a lot to that. But yeah, I think the bike the one thing that I definitely wish I rethought or thought more about.
I'd say for me, it's more about the money that I spent beforehand. I spent money on the bike that I didn't necessarily need to spend. That kind of goes along with over preparing. And I felt now that I look back, I realize there's a lot of things that I could have done without. I just said to myself, like, oh, I need this. I have to put this on the bike. So I definitely spent a bit more, I feel like I spent a little bit too much before I left. And I could have used that money to actually travel.
Okay. All right. We got one each. What's number 2 for you, Jimbo?
I think that's really accurate. It made my second one because they say it's not how you save, it's how you spend. And I've been with a couple other motorcyclists, and when I'm traveling with other long distance motorcyclists like us, we'll sometimes go the same direction for a while, and you start to pick up on their habits. And I found out that I was way too regimented in how I found a place. Like I find a place during the day, and I want to find a place that's so I can explore around. But I found myself traveling with people that would arrive at a place at night and they go to a free place. They would ask, they would be a little more bold in asking like fire departments or gas stations or people like, hey, can I just camp on your property? I'll be here late and I'll leave early. And lodging is one of my greatest expenses. It is, it could average somewhere around the half of my daily budget, somewhere between $10 and $15. So like, depending on where I am. I mean, if I find it lower, great. But there's some people that are paying nothing. And so I guess like, I wish I would have spent more time being a little more ambitious on finding cheaper or free lodging. Because you have to change how you travel a little bit. I like finding a home base and going out and around. But then sometimes you go out and around, then find the home base. And you could just, So I think there's definitely room for me to improve still on that front.
No, man. What's your number 2?
Number 2 for me, it would just be packing less. Again, I thought I had it dialed in as far as like who I am as a rider and, as a motorcycle traveler. But I definitely feel like I do kind of wish I packed a bit less in the beginning, because there were moments where, I had so much stuff. I had things hanging off the bike, hanging off the bags, I was losing things left and right. So, I think now if I were to, circle back, I would definitely take a lot less stuff. Things that I just know that I wouldn't need. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Being more flexible with gear. It's going to sound weird, but after I'd been to the bottom of the world, I went to Ushuaia. I finished it. I did the whole Pan American. I'm going north, and I'm at a ferry, and this guy shows up who's Bosnian. And in Bosnia, or your Eastern Bloc Balkan legacy countries, the people that live there know how to do more with less. And I'm sure many European viewers would agree. And this guy had a skeleton-like setup. It was the barest of the bones. And when he pulled up next to me, Yeah, I mean, I just looked at him. It's like you showed up to a party and you're super overdressed.
Yeah.
It's like I was embarrassed, and he like looked at my setup and he's like, "Wow, you got a quad lock thing for your cell phone. Like you just need like a €2 piece of plastic and a rubber band, and you'll be fine." He like scoffs at like how I have just dressed down the bike in a lot of gear. Now, and this is I know it's quite critical of myself to think that, but I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I couldn't help but think that, wow, did I do this wrong? How could I have done it better? And so, like, in addition to also like having too much gear, is also the quality of the gear. Do I really need to buy a brand name this or that? Do
Right.
I really? Because will I found myself going in basically the path of least resistance to find the most reliable thing. And sometimes you can either find a knockoff or I don't know. Since I've been gone, Temu, that's a thing now. Like,
Hmm.
there's stuff, there's resources out there that could find knockoff or off-brand stuff that it works just as good, or maybe some like remedies or homemade stuff that I've seen a lot of people use for anything for tent stakes to camp cooking gear. So I think there's the flexibility in the gear is something that I wish that I'd done a little bit better, because that's another way that you can also save financially, also save on space, and yeah, and so it's good to be with other riders for a little while, because you can start to they'll learn things from you. Like a lot of people have definitely picked up ideas from me, but I started to see how other people set things up, and yeah, that's been something that I wish that I did a little better.
Okay. All right. I will take that as your number 3. So we'll go back to Nomad. What's the last thing you wish you knew
right.
when you first started that where you are now?
Can you guys hear me? I feel like my Wi-Fi has been going in and out.
I can hear you.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah. So honestly, I've planned this travel for 4 years. So what I did for 4 years, every month I took a country and I researched it. And I researched things like borders and immigration and wildlife, and also like just landscapes, places to go. After watching YouTube videos, where is this person staying? Where is this person? And I have it's a whole notebook. It's like a little small notebook, and I spent so much time writing in this notebook. I probably looked in that notebook maybe two times since I've left.
But do you think did you retain it?
Well, here's the thing: the 2 or 3 times that I've looked in that notebook, everything that I have done was in that notebook. So I did it based on meeting people, I did it based on just kind of, whatever. I'll get to, Mexico and like, go to, I don't know, Mexico City, or go to, go have some mezcal and, in, what's the place called there again?
Aguas Calientes or Zacatecas? Or...
Aguas Calientes, yes.
Yeah.
So I think I should have looked inside that notebook a bit more. Even though I did go to a lot of places that were already in the notebook, but I think that I should have stuck to what I researched and all that stuff, and what I. So that's kind of one of the things that I really feel like I probably should have done a bit more. And now that I am here in Africa, which I honestly didn't think that I was going to get to Africa at some point, but now that I am in Africa, I've started to kind of refer back to that book, because that notebook, all the notes that I've taken notes from Central America, South America, and all the way up to Morocco. Okay. That's as far as that I've gotten. So the only thing that's a bit different is like borders change and things like that. But as far as like places to go and also like people to visit, once I put the information out there that I was going to actually be on the road doing this, people started reaching out to me and they're like, hey, I have family or I have someone in the Gambia, like I have someone in Mauritania. I have someone in, Colombia. And now when I look down the list, it's like, oh, I could have actually met up with this person's family, or I could have done this. So yes, that's one of the things that I kind of wish that I've done a bit more.
And how about you, Jimbo, as far as what Nomad said about, leaning on friends? Has that been helpful, or in hindsight, maybe you should have done more of like Nomad is saying?
I did something almost in the opposite. I would go through a lot of places, and then I would look back and realize sometimes the significance of where I just was. Like, oh, that was something real crazy that I just walked through that city in that spot where that happened. Because I'll be researching things, I'll film, research, and then go, oh crap, like that was a really cool thing that I was just in. So sometimes, like in retrospect, I'll look behind me and realize that I just done something really cool. I have, even recently, I've received, messages from folks saying, hey, if you're in the area, come hit me up. We'll do this and that. And I try to do it when I can, because not only is it an amazing local experience where you can, be amongst the local people. There's an interesting kind of celebrity status when a person will go like, hey, they've been traveling the world. Let's show them this is how we live. And, I've been invited to barbecues or to those waterfalls out of the way that aren't on the beaten path. Those things are really special. So I've definitely tried to indulge in them when I can, but it is impossible to do it all. There will be people also that say, oh, you didn't go here? I'm like, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
You can't, you will disappoint some people. The things that they want to see, you're going to miss. It will happen. So I there's of course times that I wish that I'd gone to some places for sure. Yeah.
Nice. All right, let me ask this thing and get on the scenery side, as you just mentioned, Jimbo. Some of the cool places that you realize were cool after you passed through, but you might have been the person that made it cool. Just keep that in mind. But what is the the one place that's is there a one place that's the most unforgettable place that you guys have been to? Is there a place that stands out the most that you're like, oh, this is so amazing? Or is it kind of everything is new? So like, is it all amazing?
I personally, I think I went through the Arctic way too fast. There was, it's hard because it's a time window. There's only so many viable weeks or months that you're able to navigate through the Arctic before it's innavigable or just way too uncomfortable, just way too cold. There's 2 weddings I had flown back to Minnesota for after I'd left. So I left on a major trip of a lifetime, made it as far as Edmonton, flew down and back. Then went up to Dead Horse at the very top, down to White Horse, drew down and back. So there's like a lot of Alaska. I did end up doing the Dempster, the Canadian side of the 2 highways that have access all the way to the Arctic Ocean in North America. I only did one of them, not the other. So I wish that I'd done a lot of that yet. And so honestly, there's so much to do that I think that I could make it a whole nother trip again at another time. Wow. Because there's Banff as well, another major one that I'd missed out on because I'd been keeping it with the seasons. And I also, another interesting variable was American health insurance. It would not have that in the United States, and it was going to run out at a certain amount of time. So I had to be in Mexico by a certain date, and then I would have travel insurance, which would have been fine. So like I'd rushed myself a little bit, and I wish I hadn't, because there is so much. But again, it's impossible to see everything. But I do wish I'd done that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I mean, you have the Arctic to compare it all to. I mean, that's breathtaking in itself, man. That's I think there was just comparing. For me, it's like comparing South America to like Africa. You know, it's different. Very, very, very different. I would say like landscape wise, South America was just incredible. You know, you hit heights of like 5,000 meters, and you're just see all the snow-capped mountains, and you're riding a motorcycle through all that stuff, and it's absolutely breathtaking. But then also you're in the middle of Botswana and you just see elephants coming out of the bush, and you just, you're riding next to a herd of zebras, so, as far as trying to find that one magical moment, or, trying to find what you feel was the best. It can be very difficult. It can be very difficult to really figure out what was your most magical moment, because I think all of it is so breathtaking, and you have to just kind of like every single place you go has a piece of beauty and a piece of that will hold in your memory, no matter what. There might be some that stand out a little bit more. There was one time I was riding in Peru, and like, going from, I was coming out of the jungle, heading towards Rainbow Mountain, and it was a road that I just decided to take. It was just like, okay, here's this road. It's on the map. It gets from point A to point B. Not sure how long it's going to take me, but I'm going to take this road. I ended up taking the road, and, it brought me through the smallest villages in Peru, and also the highest mountain peaks in Peru. And I was up over above 5,000 meters at that point, and it was absolutely breathtaking. And I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy. And you're standing next to this like massive mountain. You just get off your bike and just like, wow, wow. But then again, you go to Africa, and you're riding, and the next thing you know, you just see a gray rock, in the bush. And you're like, oh, that's a gray rock. And all of a sudden, the gray rock just starts moving. And you're like, what? You're like, whoa, that's an elephant. Like, oh, man. Just like, what is going on? And you just like, oh, and you just like jaw dropped, when you see that. You just like, it's just, yeah. So, it's hard to really pinpoint those, like, what is your favorite moment. It's just,
right.
You'll like things for different reasons too. I think like some stuff will capture you because it's kind of similar to what I found Patagonia was amazing because it has seasons. I like seasons. I liked it for that. Some things remind me of home. But then, like, you go to someplace completely different, like when you're, in the tropical zones or Africa, and you're in your example, like you're in someplace so alien that it'll capture you in a different way than something familiar, and you can like them both for that.
Like Colombia, I mean, with Colombia, the women captured me, pretty quick.
Well, see, I'm glad you went there, because I was going to go there. With all the traveling and with all the preparation and stuff, what's the word? Nightlife, entertainment. What's that like? Is that part of the plan in the trip? I mean, you guys are talking about seeing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of stuff. But is there something in the notebook for that?
For me, honestly, the nightlife wasn't always on the list. Number one, when I travel and I'm by myself, I don't like to be out late. That's just, that's kind of when things go wrong. So, but at the same time, you meet people at the hostel, you meet people, you might meet someone, that you're just hanging out with, and then he's like, hey, let's just go out for for drinks, beers, whatever. So you find yourself out. I always try to keep it pretty low key when it comes to going out. I'm not a huge going out person. You go to, like, for instance, like Colombia is probably like my favorite for going out, actually, because Colombia is very vibrant. And it's the place is like extremely vibrant. You're gonna find a place to hang out no matter what town you're in. There's always a cool bar to go to, or a local bar, things like that. So that's just the way Colombia is. It was the same thing with Brazil. Brazil was just like it's a very vibrant place. So for those two countries, I mean, those are kind of like my favorite. It's just like, all right, well, yeah, I can hang out in Brazil. I can hang out in Colombia, but generally, normally I don't actually go out out. I don't stay out late and things like that. So.
Right. And is that like a trust factor, financial factor, just energy?
I'd say three.
Yeah.
It hits them all, really, because I'll be real tired in the morning from being out. So the things I want to see, I may not. Alcohol, for example, is a non-essential expense. It is something that is completely unnecessary, and it gobbles up a lot of your finance. And just having one real good night could be as much as a week's worth of lodging. So, yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're here in Nigeria, where it's literally 50 cents. So
and it could be tempting. Yeah, like a beer being a $1 beer, you think, it's not that much. It
adds up. It adds up, man.
And I'll go with Jimbo first on this, kind of elaborate a little bit more on the same thing. Meeting new people, interacting with new people, and saying, hey, come out with me tonight, or hey, this thing, like, how do you keep your spider senses in check to say, okay, this is a good vibe, this is a bad vibe?
That's a good question, because I've been like, I'm not a big discotheque club person, but I know that was like what Nomad was saying, that would be the place where things could go down. It is a little bit higher risk of an activity to go out. If I don't know a city, then I'll be a little more hesitant to do so. If I find myself with a bunch of other travelers, that is nice, because we're all kind of moving as a unit together, and all of us don't know the territory. But sometimes I found myself in situations where I was being invited to a person's house, and I don't know like who they are, and you're in this weird situation where if you say no, you would insult them. If you say yes, then what? And I've had
they might have you for dinner.
Like I'm going where, and a good thing to keep in mind, because it's really easy to be caught up in the moment, is that you are the most vulnerable you've ever been. You're far from home. You don't have the networking. They're in their world, so they know everybody. So it's good to at least have maybe a hostel owner or another person that you keep in touch with. And there's been neighborhoods. There's one time where I was bar crawling for Halloween in LA, and I was dressed up as a convict because I just bought a convict outfit at a Party City for $15, and I'm not carrying one with me. And they said, all right, we're going to go to this bar, and we got to the bar. But when we got out, we were walking to the next one. It was through Skid Row. And so I'm walking through Skid Row wearing convict out with 3 or 4 other woo girls, bringing attention to themselves. It brought it heightened my senses a little bit. Like, okay, we are definitely targets. There's entire rows and rows of homeless tents of homeless people up and down the block and around the block, 4 blocks, multiple around us. So it's like, why are we doing this? What are we doing? I kept, my hand on my stuff and try not to walk through tight crowds in case anyone would pickpocket or whatever. But I definitely had to try to. I noticed that I at least acknowledge that I was in a vulnerable situation. Not knowing that you're in one will help you in case something happens. And that's typically when I've been okay. But yeah.
No matter, you want to touch on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as far as like certain situations that I've been in, there's been a couple since I've been on the road. Well, this time on the road, when I backpacked, this time on the road was when I was in Johannesburg. I was going to the train station, and Johannesburg is like, it's known. I don't know if you know Johannesburg, but it's definitely not known for the best things. And you know, I'm someone who, when it comes to travel, you know, I don't like to warn people about places. I'm not saying, oh, stay away from that country or stay away from that.
Yeah.
But Johannesburg, I'd say, like, just don't need. There's no need to go.
Okay.
just put it that way. Yeah. There's just no need, unless you have a specific reason, and unless you know somebody there.
Right.
I would say just yeah, you can skip that part of town. I was going into the bus station, and as I was walking, they say don't wear a backpack at all. As I was walking, I had a small backpack because I was coming in from the airport and I needed to take the bus to Cape Town. And I had a small backpack, and the problem was that I actually didn't know the exact location of the bus station, so I didn't want to walk and look like I didn't know where I was going. Yeah, so it was just like, you know, this is my second time being in that bus station, and yeah, as I'm walking to the bus station, I just saw my robbery unfolding in front of me. It's just like, this guy's communicating with that guy is communicating with the guy behind me. Like, everyone's communicating, and as I'm walking to the door, you just see them start walking faster and faster and faster. I get to the door, the guy grabs my backpack, and I drop the backpack, but I kind of like rip it out of his hand. I kind of do like a little 360, and I go into the station. When that happened, the guy continued to follow me to the stations, and I stopped and I faced him. I looked at him and was just like, all right, we can do it right here. So that's it. We can do it right here. And then he stopped and looked at me, and it was kind of like a standoff. I was just like,
sizing you up. He's like, do you know how to fight?
Man. Make your move. That's it. Listen, you know, I've been boxing for the last 20 years. Let's do it. So that was that situation. And then there was another one in South Africa. South Africa was a bit more intense. I met some guys at a hostel, and they wanted to play pool. They wanted to play pool with me. And we go to a bar, we started shooting pool, and, you know, whatever, I'm winning, beating some of the guys, and someone took it personal.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, at this time, I was the only black person in this bar. So everyone else was like Afrikaans.
Yeah.
And I was with my girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend, and she it's funny because she pretty much was just like, these guys look like they don't like you. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you're I'm glad you're aware of the situation.
Yeah.
I'm also aware of the situation as well. So, yeah, it turns out that they were pissed off and they were mad, and they tried to jump me in the bar.
No kidding.
They tried to jump me in the bar. I sniffed it out before it even happened, and I kind of like yelled and turned, like, faced the guys that I was playing pool with. One of the guys, he's Australian, he just charged me. Then when he charged me, I gave him like a stomp kick to the chest. His legs went up in the air, he hit the ground, and I'm just like backing out of there. I get outside, and there's two other guys, Afrikaan guys, waiting for me outside.
No kidding.
They were out for blood. And then another guy from the hostel. I mean, at this point, everyone's an enemy to me because I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Right.
And then one of the guys from the hostel, this Italian guy, he knew that I taught boxing, Muay Thai, and Krav Maga. Because he does martial arts as well. Because him and I have had a conversation about it. He grabs me by the shirt, and he says, "You got to get out of here." and I throw an elbow and I stop it right at his face. I throw it so fast and I stop it right at his face. And then it like grazed his cheek just a little bit and it stopped. And he pretty much was just like, he just jaw dropped, let me go. And he was just like, just go, just get out of here. You got to get out of here because they're going to jump you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that those are the only two situations that I've ever been in since I've been traveling. So
Right. And and again, all around having some entertainment or some nightlife or outside of just the hustle and bustle of traveling and getting to where you're going.
Right.
Yeah. I would say that, and like sometimes the company that you're with can make you a target. In Medellin, I wanted to go out with people because they were going out. Found myself at a party hostel. I don't know if you ever heard of the Black Sheep. No, man, but I was there.
No.
And okay, yeah. Well, it has quite a reputation, but it kind of populates itself with a bunch of like a lot of British people, a lot of Dutch people. They're all like university students that are on their gap year or in between semesters. So there's a lot of testosterone, a lot of like, hey, whoop it up, or we're heading out to tip bars kind of energy, but they don't. Yeah, a lot of bros. Like, these guys don't realize, and it is very important to keep in mind that this scene is very different from theirs. It may have the same kind of hallmarks of clubbing and bar crawling, whatever, but it's not their world. And they'll kind of what's the word? It's the word in Spanish. It's like just basically carry themselves in a way that is way too open and making themselves look oblivious and kind of a target. So I found myself
a bit naive.
I guess maybe what?
A bit naive.
Oh yeah. It's like this is the nightlife. This is what we're here to do, and they'll do high risk activities like smoking weed on the street on the way to the bar. Bringing more attention to themselves, being very loud, obnoxious in a way. And I could tell that being in that company was attracting not just like maybe a negative attention, but also someone who was looking to take advantage of us, pickpocket us, mug us. The police would be looking for people like us to potentially, ask for bribes or, it's just going to bring attention to us. So I guess like what Nomad had said, like he probably noticed when he was playing pool, body language of the people around. There have been times when I'd make eye contact with a complete stranger and they look away like you spotted them. Like, I'm just looking around the room. What do you mean? What? Yeah, not me. And you started to see, people are, their attention's all toward you, but their body's not. Yeah. There's like a lot of things that just seem off, and you won't be able to tell them on a checklist. You feel it. And that kind of alarm in your gut is something you should definitely listen to, because your body will start to tell you there's these signs before your brain does. And, knowing that you're in the situation, you can always choose to back out. You do not have to stay there. You can say, oh, I'm feeling like turning in. I'm kind of tired, or I'm just going to go to this quieter spot. You feel free to break away. You don't have to keep up with these people that are only there for a week and leaving. I'm in this for the long haul. I've been gone for a long time. I don't need to, drop all my money in a bar just to have a good time one time. It's on a longer scale. So
that's I have to wonder about that. So now, do you guys find that Nomad, you're coming up on I think year 3 for you, and Jimbo, you're over year 3. Do you guys and I always I try to lean on my intuition as much as possible. I usually notice it when I don't listen, but so you really don't know when you listen, right? Because when you don't listen, that you go, I should have listened. Why didn't I listen? So do you guys find yourself leaning on your intuitions so much more because you're pretty much responsible for yourself 24/7?
Definitely sharper. Like there's an intuition, like for example, just moving forward, if I were to leave South America, I would rather go to Africa next than go to Europe, because I think that if I went to Europe and then Africa, I'd get soft. And like I wouldn't be on the lookout, head in a swivel, thinking ahead, steps ahead on where I'm going to get water, where I'm going to get, it supplies, everything about it. I definitely think that I'm definitely a lot more sharp after having been through a lot of these situations. And it is important that when you think that you're, the man and you got it, they'll get you. And it still happens, and you're never above it. There's no Jason Statham, Jason Bourne kind of everybody can get got. And I had my phone stolen in Bolivia, and I should have seen the signs and or known there. There was warnings. Hey, if you go to this market, the guy that was at this hostel or at this place last got his phone stolen there. I knew it was happening. It is a thing, and I went anyway, and it got stolen. And you just think you're on top of it, and they'll still get you. And it's important not to beat yourself up about it. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I do feel sharper, but there's always there could be something eventually.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would I'm going to sit here. I'm going to compare South America and Africa as far as keeping your head on your swivel. But you should always be aware of your surroundings. That's kind of where you should always start. Is always just be aware of your surroundings. You don't have to be super alert all the time. You don't have to be like, but at least just know where you are. Know what's around you. Just always just be on that, your head on a swivel, just kind of like you said, Jimbo. For instance, I'm always aware about someone taking something off of my bike. It could be just, I feel like that's probably the extent of a lot of the kind of thefts that will happen here. In Africa is more of someone who would just take something off of your bike. Whereas in South America, I feel like someone's more likely to actually steal my bike, like Colombia. Someone's actually much more willing to take off of my bike. Brazil, Colombia, even Chile lately. Someone's just more likely to say, "Oh, what's this thing?" But at the end of the day, you're always going to just be aware of your surroundings. Places like where you're going to park your bike. You're going to be aware of just where you are, because I've been pickpocketed, and I was at the border. This was the first travel that I did. I was at the border going from Zimbabwe into South Africa, and someone pickpocketed me, and I knew that they were going to do it.
Wow.
That's how crazy it was. That's how good they were at it.
Wow. Larry Bird, huh?
Because it was literally I had the wallet I didn't really care much for, because it was holding my passport, but I was at the border, so my passport was in my hand, and the empty wallet was in my pocket, and it was one of those those pouches that you would hang over your neck kind of thing, but I just had it in a cargo pant, so it was just the string, and it was in the cargo pant. So, and then the guy comes up next to me, comes up behind me. There's a woman to my right. There's a guy to my left, and they get really close to me. I'm like, okay, everything is zipped up. Pockets are zipped up, and I start checking my pockets, and I have this empty wallet right here on my leg. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Okay, it's right here. It's big. If someone pulls it out, then I'll probably be able to figure it. So someone's gonna take it out of my. I get to the window, and I give the guy my passport, and I get it stamped. Everything goes through. Then I go back to put it back in the wallet, and the wallet's gone. And I'm like, holy shit, this person actually got me. And I knew he was there to get me, and he still got me.
There's a mental bandwidth. There is a limit to how much you could pay attention to. And when I got in Bolivia, it was an onslaught of stimuli all at once. I'm walking through a busy market, a car's driving through, everybody's kind of filtering around the side, so they're all getting squished together. The woman in front of me just stops moving, so I bump into her. And then as this happening, someone is squishing me from this side. While that happens, somebody is tapping my leg and slaps a credit card down on the ground next to me. And while all this is happening, trying to dodge a moving vehicle as it's rolling past in a busy market, we got, horns, we have music, we have people, slips the cell phone right out of my pocket. And
wow.
And it was a nice narrow spot where there was just so much happening at once, that unless I walked through there with my hands like this, every one of my pockets completely covered, you know, like
Yeah.
that's why the people have those kind of carabiner fanny packs things slowing up
Yeah.
over their shoulder. Yeah, it's or they'll work together
Right,
in
right.
Oh yeah.
some sort of group where a guy will
Oh
yell from
yeah.
across the street and then they come
Yeah.
up behind you. So,
Yeah.
and they've done it a ton before. They've done it a lot of times. How many times have you stopped somebody and how many times have they got somebody? So you're
Right.
definitely going to they're going to have way more experience than you at this.
Right, right.
Catch
And
bitch.
so and so now do you travel with just stuff in one pocket? Do you change how you behave because of these things? I mean, that's happened to me once. I mean, it might have happened before that I noticed it, but definitely there was like people working together. One person burnt me with a cigarette, but I at the time I used to wear T-shirts really big, so they couldn't get to my wallet because my T-shirt was just hanging down so far. And so it was enough for me to turn around and recognize something was going on. But like, so
Yeah.
it's like, do you change your behavior now? Do you keep your money in your sock?
I mean, for me, generally, I still I have two wallets.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
I have two wallets,
Like two phones.
Yeah, I have two phones actually. I have a burner phone that
Okay.
Same.
it's just for just in case someone does say, hey, like if they want to rob me, like you stick me up with a gun or whatever.
You can just give them the burner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as like carrying it in certain pockets to avoid certain things, I wear a lot of cargo pants. So and the cargo pants have zippers. So I generally try to keep them zipped, especially in like big cities and things like that, in crowded environments. I also don't really like crowded environments. Like the big, food markets are always cool to go to. Like I went to one here in Nigeria, which is really cool. But it's just there's so many people around. Whenever there's so many people around, I tend to get very like like it's okay, yeah, all right, yeah, just okay, time to go. Time to go. And I'll hang out there for not very long. But I think at the end of the day, I do try to keep my pockets secure as possible, because you are a target, and especially if you just look super touristy, like you're not from there, like you're a target. So, and the only way that you can protect yourself is just being aware of your pockets and and where everything is. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel like a cat in traffic when I'm in an area where there's like just so much stimuli and so many people. It also makes me a little uneasy as well. And I do the same things in carrying double wallets or double cell phones with the like intent to like, all right, if you're going to really hold me up, I'm going to take out the fake one and just chuck it. And go fetch. I'm out of here. Get out of the situation. There's knowing how to navigate when I'm going to go to a place. For example, if I find myself going to like a hike and the trailhead is maybe in a city, it doesn't matter where, but I know that my bike is going to be left behind. I don't want to have the tank bag sitting out. I don't want to have the helmet out unlocked. So I will strategically bring my panniers that close and lock with me so that I can throw everything in there so that I can go for the hike and not have it on my mind. And there are going to be people that'll ask, like, well, what if they carry it away? Well, what if they do this? Like, if they really want it and they're going to do some Ocean's 11 style heist and carry it off in a truck, they will, and it's gone. So, you will not be able to get everything. But
Right.
I'm also the same way. I actually just stopped a scam 2 nights ago. I was at a gas station, and so what they do in a gas station, and this is, I don't know about Africa, but in most of the world, even Canada will do this, is they'll have like a little terminal that they hold on to. So you pump your gas, then they have the little terminal, and you put your card down on it, it beeps, and you pay. Exactly. But so what this guy was doing is he was holding the terminal, and he held it toward me, and I took out my credit card, and I put it on, but I wanted to like look at the amount to see it matches the pump. that you always make sure they match, because in Mexico and other places, they will overcharge by, let's say, a very small amount, just maybe $1 or $2. But
Right.
it'll add up if they do it to a lot of people.
Right.
And so this isn't the first time also that it's happened to me, but I wanted to look at the terminal and he would slowly lean it away so I couldn't see the screen. So we're in mid-conversation. It was a red flag, and I want to follow up. I want the receipt. So I beeped the card, and they said, okay, you don't want a receipt, right? They were like waving it off as if you want to get out of here. You want to keep moving. I said, no, I want a receipt. This guy actually like stuffed his fingers into the terminal so that when the printer would print out the receipt, it would smudge and crunch and he ripped it out of there. Yeah. So then he hands me this smudged up broken receipt and he said, here you go. All right. Yep. There's a guy behind you and he's trying to push me along. And this is when another red flag. This is 3 already. 1, he wouldn't let me see the screen. 2, he would try to smudge the receipt. And 3, he's trying to get me out of there.
Yeah.
So I look at this receipt and I see that he had given himself a tip of $2. Immediately knew what it was. Now, they hold all the keys. They got everything. You're in their world. Who are you going to complain to? You going to call a manager? Like, what's this? The girl that I was with, who was riding with me, is Chilean, and she was actually that we did a really nice good cop, bad cop. So what she did is she like said, "Oh, I'm sure it was just a mistake. I'm sure it was just. It says right here that there was $2. Like maybe you could just charge that back to the card." And as she's talking to him, I went over to the bike, took a picture of how much was on the pump. I'm looking at my credit card. Into the system to see exactly how much was charged. It was exactly $2 more, 2,000 pesos more. It was the exact amount. So he'd given himself a $2 tip without showing me. While this was going on, another guy was complaining that he'd been overcharged by $3 or 3,000 in a car nearby. So this was a racket. There was at least 3 people while we were there. And so the girl who I was with, she said, "Oh, I'm sure it was just a mistake. You wouldn't want my boyfriend to get angry." And she did this like little Hulk thing. Like, "Look, I'm sure it was just a mistake. Please, if you could just give us it in cash, then we'll be done here and he won't get mad." And he said, "Oh, you know what? Yeah. Sorry, we can't print out the receipt right here." And she's like, "I work at a coffee shop. I know you can look at it for us, right? It doesn't take too long." Like she's still trying to give this
guy a chance.
A benefit of the doubt kind of wiggle room. Every little chance she can, she gives him a nice way out rather than accusatory. "You cheated me. Give me my money." Like she didn't do any of that. She did the complete opposite, kind of charmed him into taking. So we ended up getting the 2,000 and left a nice review on Google and threw something on iOverlander as well for any future travelers looking to fill up there. Nice. I don't know how long this is going to go on for, but yeah, that just happened. I haven't told anyone that one yet.
So, hearing all the things I've heard in the last 10, 15 minutes, why does anyone want to sign up for this?
Listen, I got a good one for you, man. I got a good one for you. So, like, speaking about the gas, being at the pump, I mean, to be honest with you, you have to watch because, like, you can actually pay with credit card. I haven't paid with credit cards since Namibia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of countries since I've paid with credit card. And one of the things you got to watch is like they will pump someone else's gas, but they won't hang the pump up or they won't reset to zero.
They won't zero out.
Yeah. And then they'll just start pumping your gas. So you're paying for the guy's gas in front of you.
Oh, wow.
Or the guy in front of you will pay, but the person still won't hang it up.
Yeah.
So if there's like $3 already on the pump, and now you're paying, they start your pump, or they start pumping your gas, but you're already started at $3. They're gonna pocket the $3 that you're gonna give them because you haven't been paying attention, looking at the numbers. So that just happened to me, and like the woman didn't reset it to zero, and then she starts putting the thing in there, and then I can it just starts going. I'm like, whoa! And I grab the pump and I actually pull the pump out of the bike.
Yeah.
And this fuel just starts pouring all over my bike. Yeah. And I'm like, you didn't reset this to zero. And she just like, and there's a lot of people around. They're all looking at me like, whoa, okay, figured it out. Like it was just like, and I was like, okay, I'm done. You can hang out the pump. I'm done. I'm not paying for anything. And I just left, and my bike was completely covered with fuel. Completely covered with fuel.
Yeah, they'll try to like count on the fact that you don't want to make a scene, and it's really you. There's the perceived action, and then there's what's really happening, and I think we could probably do like a whole another podcast on scams. And
totally.
But I think why anyone would want to do this is like I've made mistakes and I've had money paid out for nothing. You must budget those mistakes. Like it's gonna happen. Someone's gonna break, or you're gonna leave a thing behind, or someone's gonna cheat you, and it's got to be budgeted into the grand design, because it will be a cost of doing business, a cost of travel. It is the part that really nicks it is that it's preventable. It feels like it's something that shouldn't happen. And you learn. And there's been a couple times where I've seen other people got, or I've heard these stories like we're telling now. So look for the signs, but there will be new ones, and people will innovate and find new ways to screw other people over. So those little costs, though, I mean, honestly, when they do happen, they could be so little. It's just $2 for me. That is a very low cost for a good story, I guess. And I actually got the 2,000 back. So, or the gas all over your bike, Nomad. Like, it's, it's a pain, doesn't smell good, but and it made a scene, but you're out of there. Those really uncomfortable moments end up making you like a pretty hard person. And there's many of them. And you sometimes don't, they'll be put away somewhere, locked away, and then years later, someone will bring up, oh yeah, and this happened. They're like, oh yeah, I went through that. And you may not even, and you've been navigating in the future ever since, that you forgot that you got burned that one time, and you kept it at bay since. But it's still worth it. I still think travel is worth it, even though those things can happen to you.
Okay.
It helps me garner a little more respect for people that say come to the States outside of their own culture, because we know what it's like to be in a place and stick out, talk different, not know how everything works, and look like a turkey in the rain. Like, where am I? How do I do this? And people may start judging, like, oh, geez, these foreigners, they don't know what they're doing. So, we don't, and now I know. I'm now one of them.
Yeah, and it also doing what we do, I think it also builds a lot of patience, because being obviously back home, we're accustomed to one specific thing and getting things instantly, and then next thing you know, you're on the road, and you have to wait for something, or just the way that they do this could be much more efficient. It could be more efficient. It's just not.
Right.
That's just what it is. It's just, something that could have taken you 20 minutes. Now it's taking you like 3 hours, and then you're just sitting there just doing whatever. It definitely builds a lot of patience within you. And you do realize and you understand how things operate outside of your circle that you grew up in, and you just kind of like, okay, this is how things are done here. I mean, to be honest with you, since I've been on this continent, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm like, it's like, oh my god, it's just like just no need. Oh man, but again, it humbles you, and you're like, okay, let me take a step back. This is how it's done here. I'm just gonna trust the process and just not gonna complain. So it definitely makes you much more just within yourself. You're like,
gotcha. Yeah. So I gotta go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've worked on a lot of my flaws as well. Doing that, I used to be quite a self-critical person. I still am, but the mistakes that I've made and the times that I've been made, I think that it's made me a lot more confident in my abilities. I've been able to laugh when these things happen more. I'm still I'm not there. And sometimes you get out of practice and then something blindsides you. It hasn't happened in a while, and you get got, and you're like, how did I let this happen? It'll still, and for me, it may never ever go away, but I'm getting really good at it. And I think that it's been a very maturing experience as a human being. I am a lot more confident in my abilities and a lot more mature of a person by having
Right.
been put through these extremely uncomfortable experiences.
Okay. Nice. I'm going to wrap up with a couple more questions for this episode. I'll ask this. It might be a little bit personal, but I think, if you're going to jump on a bike and ride and leave the continent you're on, I think it's something that I don't know if most people think about beforehand or while doing it. I assume while doing it, you guys came across this, and is loneliness. I mean, how do you guys, deal with that being on your own? I know you stop off and you talk to people and all that. It was something you thought about ahead of time, or and all of a sudden you're looking up, you're seeing the stars, and you hear critters or whatever you want to call them where you are in the country, in the world. How has that been? Because you guys seem happy and you're having a bunch of fun despite the things that's happened. So how are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, I think this could be its own podcast too, because like when the first time I really felt loneliness is I'd been in the Arctic and I'd come down and I was in a major city for the first time. So I'd been on the countryside and in through the mountains and through these small towns, but I'd found myself in Vancouver and I wasn't meeting anybody at my hostel. I was walking through the streets and there was all these tourists. So it was like a lot of families, a lot of couples, a lot of friends. And I realized I felt really isolated because I was around so many people. And I felt like I feel now that loneliness, or no, rather being okay with being alone is almost like a muscle that you flex and you exercise and you work on. You become more comfortable with being on your own. And the beauty of being on a motorcycle is that it may not be permanent. If you're looking to be around more people, which I've felt that sometimes, I will purposefully go to a town and stay in a hostel rather than a campground, or I'll go to a city. It'll be on the way. And I try to get a little bit of everything. Some people prefer one or the other. I go back and forth. When I'm in a city, I'm ready. After a while, I'm ready for some nice big open green spaces. And then when I'm in big spaces and I'm kind of alone, or I've been camping a lot by myself, it's outside the high season, let's say, not a lot of traffic. We're like, I haven't seen people in a while. And then there's been times that I've been alone for maybe I know there's a lone stretch of like 2 months where I just didn't really want to spend time with people. I was going my own and liking it almost too much. I felt too comfortable with being alone and had to work the other direction. Like I need to be around people more. It's to me, it's been this moving needle that I try to push closer and closer toward just being okay with being alone, but also not being a hermit. And also being around people and not being around them too much, because there's eventually everyone leaves. You feel really sad. People go their own ways. There's a lot to that too. But that's been my experience.
For me, it's in the very beginning. I could be alone without being lonely. It was kind of like, as I was moving and as I was going from place to place, I started to getting used to being kind of by myself. It wasn't until this is all through like Central America, because I didn't really stay in too many hostels in Central America. I was staying in a lot of hotels, and the difference is like when you're in a hostel, there are people around that, possibly the same age as you, and they're all travelers and things like that. So you kind of have a little. Yeah, exactly. We met in a hostel in Nicaragua. So, but it's just like that's how perfect example. But I was staying mainly in hotels. In hotels, you're just kind of like in your room by yourself, and you're just kind of left to do your own research and do things in your room. So, as it wasn't until I got to say Colombia, where I started to kind of, venture off into more of the hostels and things like that. So, and I started to meet people and I feel like at times you kind of need that. You need that, interaction with people. Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, it's kind of better. It's sometimes we all need a little bit of uh, being in the hostel and interacting with people, but we also need our alone time. Just like you were saying, Jimbo, there are times where I loved being on the mountain by myself, camping, and and waking up to the morning sunrise and just being there by myself. But then as you do that, you start to kind of feel like yeah, I want to be around some people and just and talk to some and meet some other travelers and things like that. So there wasn't until I really started to grasp onto the fact that wow, I actually could be lonely if I wasn't engaging in that kind of environment sometimes, because you do kind of not all of us, but I felt like I kind of needed that every now and then. And there was, like, for instance, like when I got to Colombia and I was at Donkey Sunrise, and I was meeting a ton of people. I was meeting a ton of people. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was meeting a ton of people, a lot of like-minded travelers and riders. As a matter of fact, Jimbo, you were supposed to meet me there. Yeah.
I know.
But yeah, it was until I got there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got there where I started meeting a lot of travelers and things like that. And it was nice. It was cool. It was cool to meet all these people. And there's times where I just kind of want to be off by myself. But, at the same time, it's a little bit of, you try to get a little bit of both worlds, so you're just not deprived of one or the other. So,
Right.
Yeah, I've learned that isolation can be addicting, and I've spent like I'd be hiking and I see a couple and they're like, "Hey, could you take a picture of us for us?" And I'm like, "Sure, take the picture." And they're like, "Do you want one?" I'm like, "Nah, it's okay." And I try to get out of there, and they're like, "So where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, geez, yeah, here we." Because I have found myself doing the same introduction, telling the same story, okay, here's who I am, where I'm from, where I'm going, how long I've been gone. Oh, wow, you're on the motorcycle. And when you do that, it actually has been socially draining to reintroduce myself, like starting a cold vehicle every time. Like, all right, here's who I am, what I'm doing. When you do that so many times, it can be kind of draining. So I'd been almost avoiding people. And that's when I knew that I needed to maybe stay in a place for a while and get to know or travel with someone for a little while, or try to change my needs, because I was getting too used to trying to avoid people. I would be in a walking tour in Paraguay, in Asuncion, and when it was over, the guy came up with several different places. Hey, if you like some places to eat, and sometimes after a walking tour, some people chat, they go off together and they travel together. My initial reaction was, nope, I'm out. I want to see things on my own, and I had to fight against that. And so it has been a give and take. It can go both ways. Wanting to be isolated, and it's not the best either.
Oh man, well, we're gonna dive more into all these things that you guys are going through on further episode. But I got one last question before we get out of here today. What does adventure on two wheels mean for you guys?
Woo. That's a deep one. Yeah. Oh man, you want to take this first?
I could tee it up and figure, because okay, so I mean, in our perspective, we have no home in the traditional sense. I have not slept in the same bed for more than 2 weeks in more than 2 years, right? So give or take, maybe my tent, but like, there are adventures that you can do without having to throw your whole life into a storage locker and running away. Like, an adventure could be getting a bike and going to a place you've never been before, doing that tightrope walk, and saying, okay, if I fall, or if I mess up or something happens out there, I'm gonna have to fight my way back. Like, that's an adventure. I think it could be something as simple as climbing a mountain or doing a pass or a trail that you've never done before. Sleeping in a tent that you've never done before. To that, it could be quite an enhancing, enriching, and emboldening experience, even though it is quite benign compared to what we do. We're out here doing this. So an adventure could be any of those things. I know that it seems like such a tall order to immediately make the leap to leaving your life behind and getting out there and not coming back for who knows how long and having no time frame. And people do that, and it is an adventure. I believe that it is, but that doesn't it doesn't invalidate wanting something in a smaller scale at all. I think that many people, either you don't have to do what we do, or if you want to, there are baby steps to get there that are still adventurous. So yeah, there's no pedestals here. There's no one that's either doing it right or wrong. I think there's many ways to do it, and it's as long as you're having fun and you're safe and you're enjoying and you're doing things, have control over what you want to do. Even sometimes when you lose control, like when you're losing stuff, that ends up being an adventure too anyway. So I guess, but
definitely.
So,
totally agree. Totally agree with you, Jimbo. It's literally, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? And it's to the extent of where you want to go and what you want to do, and adventure to you might not be adventure to me. It's just how we choose and where we want to go, because it could be like you could take when you're kids, you go in the backyard and set up a tent and going in the back, just in the backyard, and that's an adventure in itself right there. So I think as for you and I, obviously we've taken it a little bit step further and just, and have left for quite some time.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, it's just like, you do what you love, and you just kind of say, all right, well, I want to do this. I want to go, I want to go bungee jumping. That's an adventure right there. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but
someone would find that as an adventure, and other people would find that as a nightmare and would be happy it was over.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, it just depends on the person, and you can define it in many ways. Absolutely, you can define adventure in many ways. So,
I have to say, you guys were pretty bad at that. You were telling other people what they might want out of an adventure versus what you guys have been living. But also, I think I kind of get it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are still in it, so it's really hard to define it in this moment, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an organic creature, really. What I define as an adventure for me today, now that I'm in a place for a while, would be, let's check out this new road. Whereas before and other times, it's like, am I going to make this? Can I get to the other side of this death road in the rain with 2 days left on my visa? And I got to, there's different levels.
Yeah.
No doubt. I do believe that. I want to thank you both for coming on and doing this thing here. I really appreciate it. Life is an adventure, and remember to stay B4evaKool. My name is Rex45, Jimbo, and Nomad on 2 Wheels. Also, Jimbo goes by 2 Wheels 1 Compass as well on all the social media platforms. And I think we're going to be doing this at least once a month. So, at least start looking at adventure bikes, people. We're not going anywhere. Any last words before we get out of here, guys?
Hey, no matter how you get out there, even if it's at the end of your street or the end of the road or the end of your state, anywhere. It's get out there.
Yes,
at least leave your street, people.
Agreed. At least leave your street. Yeah. I mean, you can at least go to Starbucks, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Peace.